Welcome to Adeptus On-Air, the show where we examine how individuals and companies make decisions that drive their business and personal success. Each week, we connect with notable professionals who pull back the curtain on the industries that Adeptus has been on the cutting edge of for the last 30 years, including music, sports, and entertainment, as well as new emerging markets. Welcome to Adeptus On-Air. This is James Walker, Director of Sports and Entertainment at Adeptus CPAs. And I have a very, very special guest today, Amobi Okugo. Thank you for being on the show, Amobi. How is everything your way?
No, everything's going well. Thank you for having me. It's always a pleasure to connect with you.
Yeah, man. We've had several conversations since we first met at the Super Bowl, but we never really delved into you and your story. So this is actually, even though it's probably the third or fourth time we talked, this is actually going to be a first in terms of in terms of our conversation. So just tell me, we'll just start from the beginning, man. Just tell me how everything got started. From the beginning, as far as high school to IMG to UCLA to being first round. Just kind of give me the background of how it came to be from your start to becoming a pro soccer player.
Okay, most definitely. Thanks for giving me the platform. So, real quick, try to give it in 2 minutes or less, I guess. First
Yeah.
generation Nigerian American, born and raised in California, oldest of four siblings. Grew up playing soccer and basketball until soccer kind of took over. Was fortunate enough to, be exposed at a high level at a very young age. Play for the youth national teams, which led me to residency, which is the U17 men's national team program that's located at IMG in Bradenton, Florida. Traveled all over the world, competed at the highest level, which led me to my opportunity to play collegiate ball at UCLA. Uh, Fortunately, we had a good team, and I was one of the players that was able to stand out somehow, and ended up going pro after my freshman year. Took a lot of convincing to my parents, being Nigerian, big on education, but they somehow allowed me to go and was drafted to Philadelphia. From there, spent 12 years, playing professional soccer across, five different teams, two different leagues, and the rest is history. It goes by quicker than you expect, but there's so many blessings and experiences along the way.
And that's amazing. And just reading your background as I was preparing for this, I was just amazed. Like I cover basketball in NFL, so I see one and dones on the basketball side.
Mhm.
I hadn't really heard of the one and done too much on the college soccer side. So is that normal? Is that not normal? I mean, it's okay to pat yourself in the back. You know what I mean? Like, how did that particular 1 year at UCLA come to be, and how regular or irregular is that?
So at the time of when I was able and fortunate enough to do it, it was starting to get a little bit more of an opportunity. So MLS is, the highest level in the United States. They had before Generation Adidas, they had Project 40. So basically, it was like a Nike collaborated MLS deal where Project 40, top 40 underclassmen, whether they're underclassmen in college or even in high school, to entice them to go pro at a younger age. After MLS and Adidas started working together, they called it Generation Adidas. So I was part of the Generation Adidas class that allowed or incentivized players that were of high talent, had high potential to go pro at an earlier age. So because I had a good season, because of my track record with youth national teams, I was one of the short lists to be a Generation Adidas player, and the opportunity was too good to pass up, and that's kind of how it happened. Nowadays, you see players going, with the homegrowns, the academy routes. So you have players going pro as young as high school, but you still have Generation Adidas where players can go as underclassmen as well.
What was that conversation like with your family? Was it some members of your family saying absolutely yes, absolutely no? Were you swaying back and forth, or was it a no brainer for you? What was the whole process conversation?
Yeah, so it was just a crazy experience because everything happened so fast. I think like right when I was first invited to the residency program, that's when everything changed. It was more soccer first, school second. And not to say that school took a back seat, but soccer was exposing me to so much at a young age. I was traveling all over the world, playing at the highest levels, you know, it's creating new experiences. So it was just one after another, residency, youth national team, U World Cup, college. Next thing you know, agents are, reaching out to my parents about, the opportunity to go MLS. So it was almost like the next step, and a mentor and family friend was like, you have to strike when the iron is hot. My parents, they came to the states not really knowing anything about youth sports or anything like that, so it was kind of a lot of research. They were big on education, but because of the way the generation Adidas contract was set up, my education was still going to be an opportunity that I could pursue, whether it was while I was playing or after I was done playing. And they basically allowed me to do it as long as I promised them that I would, get my degree, and that's all it took.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome. And um, what would you say your business acumen was like? I mean, I know the Amobi today, right?
Yeah.
But what was your business acumen like at that point, going pro after 1 year in college? How would you describe? Like, did you know the difference between financial planners and accounting
No.
accountants, or just what was your business acumen at that point?
That's a great question. When it came to business acumen, like by the book, like understanding the difference between a financial advisor, accountant, nothing to the extent where I'm comfortable. I could say I was comfortable with. But when it came to being observant and like how business people made money or how businesses kind of formulated, the entrepreneurship, I was always very curious, very observant. So I knew that lane, and I had some side hustles growing up. Um, but when it came to like taxes and accountants and wealth managers and financial advisors and CF, nah, I had no idea.
Did you have a business team together, or did your agent put it together, or how was all that set up at that
Yeah,
point?
so that's a great question. So it was me, my father, and my mother coming together and really formulating. So once I got my first like real paycheck, my signing bonus, since
How
I
much
was
was
still,
it, by the way, if I may ask? And
yeah,
this was
it
2010.
was yeah, high five figures.
Okay,
Yeah, so
that's
it's high
significant.
five figures. It was supposed to be lower, but I ended up doing well at the combine. So
Nice.
I got hired a draft pick. So my parents were like, let the first year happen. So we put it into a CD, certificate deposit, and just was like, all right, you're gonna live off just your salary. You're not gonna touch your signing bonus. You're not gonna touch your endorsements. You're just gonna live off your playing salary, and let's see how the first year goes in terms of understanding, the rhythm of a professional soccer player, the unknown expenses that you may have to pay for, the maintenance of your body, just understanding that. And then after the year of learning and trial and error, then all right, we're gonna disperse that money, that signing bonus, into different things. So for me, it was open up a brokerage account, and doing some stuff there. But I know others would dive into real estate. Others do different type of assets. So that was the first thing I did. Putting my signing bonus in a CD. The second thing, my dad set me up. Got my life insurance. Did that set up. I didn't know anything about like life insurance from that standpoint. I just showed up at the house, and there was a guy in the house with us. Like my dad was like, we're gonna make sure this is set up as well." And after that, just put myself on a budget, and then just learned. Went back to school. I was doing the slow and steady model, so 2 classes per semester, and then just trying to acclimate myself within the team. And when it came to financial advisors or any people like from a business perspective, we had like consultants where we come in like on a quarterly basis just to check to see how everything's going, but not from the standpoint of having someone on staff. And when it came to tax time, and I always have a funny story about that, I used the help of my agent and a couple players, but my first accountant is not the one that I'm currently using.
Mm. That's interesting. That's interesting how all that played out, and just the plan it seems like your family kind of put together for you. What would you do differently business wise at the start if you can go back to the day you were drafted, or did everything work out as planned?
I guess everything was supposed to work out how it was supposed to happen, but in hindsight, I would love to have put that money to use right away and not wait that year and putting it in a CD. Obviously, it was being good to like, make sure you're acclimated and stuff like that. But a year is a long time, where you could have, really put that money to use. Fortunately, you didn't lose it, but you could have gained a lot more. Everything's in hindsight. 2010, still coming off the backs of a recession with that type of cash. Could have got some real estate. I don't
Yeah.
want to say pennies on the dollar, but you could have got a lot cheaper. Could have gotten some stocks. Getting on Facebook at that time, or
Oh,
Netflix at that time, or
wow.
Tesla at that time would be good. But everything's in hindsight. And the thing about the best time to invest was 20 years ago. The second best time was is now. So just taking that mindset and learning from my trials and errors, and always expanding as I move forward.
One thing I kind of glossed over. I just want to go back for this one question. The El Dorado crew. I missed
Oh,
that.
okay, yeah. You know about the elderly.
I've been doing my homework, man. I missed
Respect.
that. Um, Said to be the greatest youth team of all time. Before I get back to the pros and the financial side, who was on that team? Is the legend all true? Is the legend a myth? I mean,
Someone, you know how you can like edit Wikipedia? So I think some buddies, some people from Sacramento edited that up. But
oh, I
at
see.
the time, El Dorado Crew was ranked number one team in the nation
Wow.
for multiple years during our youth days. We had a couple players that ended up going pro. Not only myself, Adam Yon had, over half our team went to D1, colleges to play soccer. So we had a good squad, but it's just club soccer. It's nothing too fun. It's nothing too crazy.
Hey, so you won your championship 5-0, man. That's. I mean, in football terms, that's like 35-0. Like
Yeah,
35-0 in the
but
Super Bowl.
the next year we got smacked by a team from SoCal in the regional. So it's you give and take. It's a give and take game.
Gotcha. Is there a point? Was there a point in your youth? Because I have a 6-year-old that's playing soccer, is running around and stuff like that. But is there a point in your youth where you kind of knew or felt, okay, I can take this to, I can make a career out of it. I can make a career out of pro sports, because really only 2% of whatever, even maybe even less than that, of youth athletes end up going on to actually making a living and playing professional sports out of it. So was there a point, maybe when you were 13, maybe when you were 8, maybe when you were in college? I mean, I don't know when it was, but that you felt that you had a special talent?
Yeah, that's a great question because growing up, playing club soccer and youth teams, you got the parents saying, "Oh, keep him in the sport. He's going to go far." And he's just like, "As you're just the best in your area, or you're probably one of the better players on your team." But it wasn't until the youth national teams when I got invited to the U14 national team camp, started getting recognized at the high level, started playing at a higher age group, and was doing just as well. And then it kind of all you know summed up when I got to residency. When I got that official residency invite, that was like, okay, yeah, now he's on the track. And worst comes to worst, he's going to get a D1 scholarship wherever he wants to go. And then from there, kept climbing up the ladder. And then, the professional ranks was starting to be a real opportunity where I wasn't really prepared for it, from the sense of like, all right, maybe I need to start looking for agents, or got to understand how the, professional ranks was going. I was just kind of playing in the present moment for the current teams that I was representing. And that's kind of how it came about.
That's awesome. Okay, so I'm gonna get back to the pros a little bit and the business side of it. Uh, you came into MLS in 2010. You follow it even today. I see you on your Twitter still, tweeting about it, stuff like that. How has the business of MLS grown? Because there were some questions, I don't know, maybe 15 years ago, of whether professional soccer is really going to take hold in the U.S. In general. And now it's getting pretty mainstream. Obviously, worldwide, it's the biggest sport. But how is the business side of the league grown, and where do you see it taken in the future?
That's a great point. Great question. I think MLS, the sky's the limit. It's only going to continue to grow. As long as they could ride the wave of the upcoming World Cup in 2026, not the one in Qatar, but 2026 when the U.S. is hosting, North America is hosting. MLS is going to be at the epicenter of everything good that's happening. The the investment in the league has grown, the exposure in the league across the board has grown. It's night and day between when I started in the league and where it is today now. Additional teams. Every team has like state of the art facilities, um, soccer specific stadiums, international talent. MLS is here to stay, and if they keep doing it the right way, it could be a force to be reckoned with. I'm not saying it's going to take over NFL or NBA, but it can definitely be a formidable top three league in North America.
You play for 3 MLS teams, I believe, if I heard that correctly.
So I played for four: Philadelphia, Orlando, Kansas City, and Portland.
Got you. What were your different experiences on the teams? And you got trade. I know you got traded at one point. What was that like as a professional player? Um, just kind of go through your different experiences and everything. Sure.
No, most definitely. So my dad says something funny. Always have a backpack if a professional athlete. You can't call one place home. That's just how it works. So Philadelphia, started off great. That was the first team that drafted me. My rookie year was, how can I say it? It was a welcome to the league moment. I didn't play that much, but I was doing well, and luckily I was part of the youth national team, so I wasn't getting. I wasn't losing my mind. Let's just say that. Fought my way up the pecking order. Ended up, being starter, captain, doing all that. Once my contract ran out, I signed a new contract with Orlando. It was another expansion team, but within, they had big plans. Signed a, big deal, guaranteed. Supposed to be there. One of the stalwarts of the team. Within 7-8 months, got traded to Kansas City. Kansas City, I was there for less than a year. Dealt with some injuries. Kind of got settled back in, played with Portland, was there for 2-3 years. And then after that, went to Austin. And between Portland and Austin, I was a free agent for a year, figuring out if I was going to pursue business school. But, soccer was still on top of my heart. So ended up going to Austin, and Austin was in the USL, or is in the USL.
Yep.
At the time. Now Austin, the team that I was on, is now defunct, and Austin has a MLS team now. So that was my career in a nutshell. It goes by quick. Was very fortunate, won some trophies, got some accolades, made a lot of good friends. And yeah, that was it.
And I've also, in covering different leagues, kind of seen athletes go into retirement with varying degrees of, I don't know if success is the right term, but, just what was your mindset in making the decision of, whether it was time to move on or keep playing, and just what's that process? What was that process like for you?
The process was fairly easy. I was trying to retire a year before, but my best friend, who I played with, since I was like 13, he came out of retirement to join the team that I was on. And he was like, let's have fun this last year and just ride it out. So I was like, all right, cool. But I was so invested in business. Business had become my second sport, and it was to the point where I was, I don't want to say more excited, in the day to day from a business standpoint than I was in the day to day from a soccer standpoint. That I knew, I was like, if one foot in, one foot out, you can. I was in a unique situation with Austin, to be able to do that and still perform at a high level. But I wanted to make sure that if I was going to go in on this business thing, I got to give all my effort. And soccer has ran its course. I did everything I could, over 200 games, over 200, over 150 starts, been captain, playoffs, all this stuff that, people would be envious of, people would be grateful for. And at that time, it was like, all right, let the young guys come in. Like, I never wanted to be that old guy that was trying to like get one more year and get one more year and get one more year. And like, nah, it ran its course, 12 years in the league. And I'm happy to say that walking away without any serious injuries and,
Yes.
and a life full of experiences.
And if I can just add something, man, I'm in awe of your humbleness about everything. I've known you for a little bit, but I would, you don't introduce yourself as, "Hey, I was a former first round pick for, the MLS and did one of the." I had to actually look through your background to find all that stuff out. So I'm learning this after the fact of, we're just having general conversations and everything. So how do you as you transition, how do you maintain that, that level of humbleness as you go into the business world where you have a pedigree that not many people in business have.
No, thank you so much for that. And a mentor of mine has said, like, it's good to be humble, but sometimes you need to talk about yourself as well. Because if you don't talk about yourself, no one else will. So it's a healthy balance between that. But at the end of the day, everyone is a star in their own right. Whatever it is. My thing is like, all right, you can be a pro in sports. Not everyone has that luxury, but everyone is a pro in life. So whether it's taking care of their family, like not everyone has the means or capabilities to do that at a high level. Going to work, making sure like not playing sports now, having the discipline to go work out. People that work out every day and never play sports, you're a pro in consistency. So understanding that everyone has their own like capabilities and skill sets, and being more interested than interesting has been the philosophy I've been able to take. And then it's always a bonus when you can have a genuine conversation with someone without sharing your accolades, and then on the back end they see or they find out that you played soccer and they have a love for soccer, and then they look you up or you tell them and they're like, wow, that just makes an authentic, genuine conversation last longer. And that's kind of the approach I've been taking.
Does your background open more doors
Oh
when you're
yeah, for
going
sure.
into business? How does that work when you have these conversations? How has that worked out? I know it's still early, and
Yeah.
your
No,
transition is still new.
that's a great question. That's a great point. I think for me, it's definitely open doors, but you want to do it in a way where they don't just think you're the athlete, coming in, big jock, macho man. So definitely use it to open doors. Try to find a commonality or a synergy, and then use that, and then kind of sprinkle in, you're a professional athlete at the highest level. And the open rate or the success rate to get that meeting or get that phone call has been tremendous, just because of my experiences and my background and my connections.
That's awesome, man. So tell me about the Frugal Athlete and your business. Your business ventures or ventures. You can tell me about it all.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Yeah.
Tell-
I know we've talked about it quite a bit, but so I'll start off with the Frugal Athlete because that's the one that's kind of led me to this space that I'm in now. So Frugal Athlete is an online financial media platform where we promote prudent financial practices and smart career decisions amongst professional athletes and student athletes. Our goal is to help athletes make, manage, and multiply their money through financial education and athlete empowerment. I started that after seeing the 30 for 30 Broke documentary. I was naturally curious of athletes that didn't fit the Broke documentary, but weren't anomalies like Serena Williams, LeBron James, Tom Brady, Kobe Bryant, rest in peace. Those are professional athletes, yeah, but those are anomalies. They're going to be good. They can not touch a ball or do another brand deal, and they'll be good for life. Whereas the majority of athletes, once they're done playing, within, let me say, 4 to 5 years, they're going to have to, think about their second game and figure out what's next. So I was trying to find athletes that fit the mold of, making prudent financial decisions and smart career decisions, to lead a life well spent in whatever their second game was. And as I started a Frugal Athlete, it started off as a blog. I would highlight an athlete a week that I felt fit the model of what a Frugal Athlete means in my eyes. And then from there, kind of built it out into this media consulting content platform. And that's where we're taking it. Outside of that, started doing a little bit around the business development strategic partnership space. So me and a buddy of mine started Serve Consulting LLC, where we help companies and athletes from a business management, project management, strategic partnership perspective. And that's been going well, hopefully trying to grow that. So if anyone's listening and would
yeah.
want a consultation call, or, is looking for somebody, don't hesitate. But those are the two main things. And then me as an individual work as like a talent, content creator as well.
That's awesome, man. And I mean, you're filling some huge voids there. With everything, with both aspects of what you're doing. And you mentioned the definition of a frugal athlete. What is your definition of a frugal athlete? Because in some realms, the word frugal, can take
Yeah,
a negative connotation, and
exactly.
you kind of flipped it into a positive. So,
Exactly.
what's your definition of that?
Yeah, and you bring up a great point again. So early on in the league, people would call me cheap, and I was like, no, I'm frugal. So when I
Hmm.
started a frugal athlete, that's immediately what came to mind. So my definition of a frugal athlete is someone that's efficient, someone that understands how to leverage their resources, their capital, their experiences, their network, their opportunities to, build on that. In this case, their financial pyramid, their financial stability, their overall career goals, their personal ecosystem. So when I think of frugal, I think of someone that's efficient. I think of someone that's able to leverage what they have, and someone that's economical and prudent, rather than someone that's cheap.
Yeah, no, perfectly said. And with your experience, being in locker rooms and being with teammates, there's all different. There's the big spenders, and there's the prudent ones, the one that's takes their time with it. How much have you leveraged your transferable skills? Like for me, I remember transitioning from sports reporting, which is different from being an athlete, but at least in the same business.
Exactly.
Certain things like you know constantly being on time, being great on deadline, being great under pressure. All those things I kind of leverage for me from sports reporting over into the business side. You, as far as being a professional athlete, what attributes do you feel that you've been able to leverage most as far as taking that into the business world?
To be honest, everything, discipline, time management, organizational skills, competitive spirit, understanding, being in a results oriented business, teamwork, communication, um, constructive criticism, how to receive it, how to give it, hard criticism, how to receive it, how to give it, just how can I say it? Ability to handle adversity, ability to smell like what's going to happen next. Just natural street smarts when it comes to like on the field, when you see like the veteran that knows the rookie's going to go this way and they just make one move. Same thing in business that I've been able to apply uh, um, over to the business space. Um, yeah, to be honest, the synergy between sports and business is never ending. And I think a lot of athletes, when it comes to transferable skills, they don't realize how much is actually transferable. So even from the standpoint of like, um, obviously there's different skills like Excel and, making slides and stuff like that. But at the core root of everything we do, you can find something that you've done in sports to manage that. So even something like networking,
Oh
being
yeah.
able to understand that when I go to, Dallas, I know people on the team, I know where to keep in touch, usually before the game we'll get dinner or something like that, understanding that, understanding how to read, a business sheet, we look at film and then break down players, that's the same thing, but now you got to apply it to business. There's some technical terms that you may have to learn, but these are things that we've done. Having an assessment test, before the season, you do physicals. Well, in business, you got to do an assessment test of who you're going to work with. So anything that you do in business, there's a way to transfer it to something that you did in sports.
Man, perfectly said. I couldn't say that any better. And just even to throw another aspect in it, you mentioned networking, but just the relationships and access.
Exactly.
If I had any advice on today's current athletes, it's just be good to everybody. You just don't know you know
Exactly.
who you're going to come across to, especially being a professional athlete where everyone wants to be around you. You're going to come across so many different people that could potentially help you on the business world after retirement, or help you with some advice, or whatever it is. So just be good to everybody you come across, because you can really run into the right person who can help you after retirement. Because I've seen some professional athletes who were at the very high level but weren't very good to
You know,
people. And now you don't really see them around anymore. Like now they're retired and people don't want to deal with them because they're not, doing their athletic feats anymore. And, they weren't the nicest people, at the time. And now, now they're retired. People don't want to necessarily deal with them. And I've seen athletes who were just, average per se. They weren't superstar, mega contract level, but now you see them everywhere because they were so likable and they built the right relationships, and they,
exactly.
they made the right business moves, and things like that. So, definitely relationships, networking, just being a good person, I think really goes a long way. Where do you see yourself in 5 years, Amobi? Where do you see yourself as far as personal life and building and everything?
No,
You
I love that question. I just got it the other day, and where I see myself in 5 years, hopefully, uh, healthy first and foremost, family healthy. But I see myself as a facilitator. I want to be one of the go-to guys when it comes to being able to, facilitate people to get things done. Make things easier for people and companies to increase their bottom line or help them reach their goals. Whether that's being a deal maker or someone that's connecting the dots, definitely want to, be that kind of go-to resource for that. Um, and I think if I continue to do what I'm doing, I can be on that path. Help people understand the leverage that they have, whether it's athletes and individuals from a financial perspective, from a networking perspective, from a business and productivity perspective. Definitely, that's one of my key themes. And then, keep growing. I want to be able to provide for my family. I want to be able to leave an impact. And if I'm able to do that, um, that means that things have been happening in a successful way. Definitely stay involved in sports. By the time 2027 will be just off the World Cup, so soccer is hopefully going to be a big component. I want to be, a leader in that space.
Yeah, and you will be, man. I have a ton of faith in you, man, and you have. I feel like you have a good pulse on. Just you have your ear to the ground, so to speak. Like
Yeah.
you know what's next, and you kind of have a vision for that. And one of my last questions I do want to ask you, and maybe I'll give my answer first. But the question is, what are the one or two things that you think sports is missing, and this is just general sports that's missing that could really, where do you see the voids in sports right now that could be filled? Just either just from a general sense or from a business sense or what have you. So my answer to that, I'll give you my answer first
Okay. I'm intrigued.
to help you kind of understand the question. So being around sports for 21 years, I feel like things have become less interpersonal, and I think eventually things will get cyclical. And I think it's time to get back to being more personable. And I'm speaking within the sports business. I don't think coaches talk enough to each other. I don't think players necessarily talk enough to each other outside of their circle. And I think if there were networking events, networking things, especially on the minority side of minority sphere, sometimes there's a crabs in the barrel mentality amongst minority coaches or things like that. Like they feel like they're all competing for one spot when it's not really the case. There's tons of opportunity. I feel like the minority pipeline in all sports, NBA, NFL, maybe soccer, hockey, probably not as much. But I think the minority coaching pipeline could use more unison and teamwork and networking together to kind of build that and really help, the future of sports. I think you'll start to see more minority coaches, on sidelines in prominent positions, once that happens. But so that's one. I'm losing my train of thought on what the second thought was that sports is missing. But I'll throw it to you, and if I can remember my second thought, I'll finish my second thought. But that's one thing. I think things have become a little fragmented, and I think it will kind of be a little more interpersonal and more connected. In the future, I think that will really help. Help the sports community. But go ahead.
No, yeah, I love that answer. And to double down on that, I think that definitely should be like more crossover amongst different sports, between soccer, basketball, football, the women's game, lacrosse, baseball, hockey, more crossover between sports from a business perspective, but also amongst the players. You can get a lot of creativity, going. As it pertains to what I would like to see moving forward, or what I think is missing, um, it's a great question. I think everything doesn't have to be monetized,
Mm,
if that makes sense. So
yeah.
obviously, the owners are doing a great job investing money to, build a community, build a formidable franchise. But I think if you focus on building that community and understanding, like letting the fans, because owners come and go, players come and go, coaches come and go, but fans are always going to be there.
Yep.
So figuring out a way to continue to serve the fans and not have to monetize everything, and everything has to be the subscription or stream platform or NFT or merch. Find a way to engage the fans just authentically, let them inside, and let them be part of the thing that y'all have built. You're gonna get so much on the back end. And
Yeah.
I think, especially as everything starts to get fragmented between cable and digital and streaming and this and that, if there's a way to make sure we don't focus on monetizing everything, um, you're going to get more money on the back end, even though it's kind of oxymoron.
No, no, I could definitely see that. That's really smart too. I think in a smaller way too. I think players can kind of take that approach too. I think with social media now, you feel closer to the player, but you're really further from the players. You're only getting their electronic communication and
Yeah,
how they
exactly.
want to do it. You.
Yeah.
So I think more like in person, interpersonal communication with the athletes and meet and greets and things like that could be very beneficial for players to develop their hardcore fan base. You might have a million, Instagram followers, but how many real true hardcore fans, do you have that actually, buy your stuff and support you no matter what, all that kind of thing. I think there has to be kind of an interpersonal level with that. But no, maybe that's a conversation for another podcast. A movie,
Yeah.
but
Part two. Part two.
yeah, exactly. But where can people find you? Where can people find your company, your social medias, and everything? Just lay it all out there for me.
No, most definitely. And then once again, it's always a pleasure to connect, and I appreciate you giving me the platform. So you find me at Amobi Says on all social platforms, TikTok, Instagram, Twitter. I guess there's a new app out now, Be Real, that I had to get.
Oh wow,
Can't
haven't
even.
heard that one.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. LinkedIn, Amobi Okugo, website www.amobiokugo.com. If you want to check out Frugal Athlete specifically, at a Frugal Athlete, Twitter, Instagram, uh, and www.afrugalathlete.com. On YouTube, just type in a Frugal Athlete or Amobi Okugo. Both of those channels will show up. And that's it. Always down to connect, always down to collaborate if it makes sense. And, just trying to see everyone win.
Excellent, man. So thank you very much, Amobi, and thanks to everyone listening to Adeptus On-Air. You can always re-listen to our podcast on our website for great perspectives on sports, entertainment, business, and emerging markets. So until next time.